Well, being a new year, a number of manufacturing companies are on the drawing table just to set what they expect for 2017. Among them is Pwani Oil Company, and we now want to cross over to Mombasa County, where we have our reporter Francis Ontomwa at Pwani Oil offices, just to speak to the managers there on what they look to do differently in 2017, as well as what are some of the key highlights that characterize 2016. Over to you, Ontomwa.
Well, Abby, of course, it has not been an easy year for many manufacturing industries. It has been quite bumpy, but many manufacturing industries have managed to actually pull through and actually register successes. Right now, we are looking at the state of manufacturing industries down here in the coast region, just to see how their year has been reviewed 2016 and perhaps talk about 2017, how they actually expect their year to be. And indeed, we are broadcasting from Pwani Oil Product Limited right here at their headquarters in Jomvu, where we will be speaking to the commercial director to talk about how the firm has been actually trying to cut a niche in this very competitive industry. And one-on-one, I'll take you into this particular interview. Welcome, Mr. Rajul Malde, the commercial director, Pwani Oil Product. Talk to us perhaps briefly, first of all, Happy New Year. Talk to us about how has been 2016 for you, and perhaps what are you looking forward ahead to as we now begin 2017?
Okay, so Happy New Year to you all. 2016, as you've rightly said, has been a bumpy year. A lot of issues in as far as money circulation, disposable income availability is concerned. Quite a few challenges in as far as competition is concerned. So we rate competitors like the gaming industry in betting for football and rugby and whatever else who are part of our competition for every shilling in the pocket of the Kenyan. So all that has given rise to more challenges in terms of getting a share of the disposable income of the Kenyan. So over the year, it's been a tough year, and we've tried to survive. We've had a very rough 2 quarters, second and third quarter of the year. Fourth quarter picked up a little bit from October. Going into December, because of the Christmas shopping and families reuniting and so on, a lot of festivities, sales were high, and that unfortunately was overridden by supply shortages of crude palm oil from Indonesia and Malaysia, who are our suppliers from overseas. We had shortages of ship arrivals into Kenya, which resulted in a lack of availability. So a good season was then overridden by lack of product availability. So overall, the year was a tough one. So we've improvised, obviously. So we've tried to use some local oils from within Kenya, whilst we had shortages from getting the imported crude palm oil from overseas, and continue to supply the Kenyan consumer who consumes products from Pwani Oil. The other big thing, because of the competition for that shilling in the pocket, the Kadogo economy, the consumer packing, small sizes, has grown, and we've ventured into 40-gram and 50-gram packing of cooking fats, 250 mLs of cooking oils in Fresh Fry and Pishipoa and Frymate brands. We went into a 20-gram of toilet soap, bathing soaps in the Sawa brand. We went into a 40-gram of beauty soap in Diva brand, and so on. So overall, we've tried to overcome those challenges by becoming more pocket-friendly in terms of the coinage, and continue to drive as much as we could.
Well, Mr. Rajul, we're just kicking off a brand new year, 2017.
Yeah.
Any positive projection into this year? This will be an electioneering year in Kenya. Do you see anything perhaps positive coming out of 2017 for you?
Okay, so in the year 2016, what we did was actually prepare to a large extent for the election year 2017. Our understanding is that during every election year, quite a bit of money is pumped within the economy because of campaigning, and because of that money that is pumped into posters and banners and T-shirts and so on, we believe that disposable income will be higher. So what we've done is we've tried to get into more retail outlets, more kiosks, more dukas, make ourselves more available so that we get a bigger share of that money generation that will come out into the election period next year, this year, sorry. The other thing we hope will not be such a big issue, but we are scared of, is the exchange rate against the US dollar. Because our raw material is completely purchased in the US dollar base, the exchange rate fluctuations which normally happen because of capital flight out of the country during this time from foreign investors will give some pressure on the shilling. And we hope that the central bank and the governor will be able to curtail as much as possible the frequent volatility in the exchange rate. If that happens, and with our reach now in the Kenyan market, we foresee 2017 to be a fantastic year.
Let's review the last couple of days a bit. It has been a festive season, and of course, many people have been cashing in from the festivities. Perhaps, how has it been for you?
As I said, demand has been great. There is an over-demand, I would say, and we've not been able to completely fulfill the increasing demand, mainly because of raw material shortages. We've tried to source locally as much as we could, but unfortunately the local seed production isn't big enough to cater for the Kenyan demand overall. So demand was good, but supply unfortunately wasn't.
Players in the manufacturing industry in the last couple of years have been citing the problem of importing cheap products, selling them locally here. How does that really affect business for local manufacturing industry like you?
So it affects very, very adversely. We do have, it's not cheap imports, it's actually imports which are coming in without paying the relevant duties and VATs and so on. And also bypassing the Kenya Bureau of Standard requirements of quality and so on. So that overall scenario impacts the cost of product in the market, which we unfortunately can't compete with based on the cost of manufacturing that we have operating here in Mombasa. So the impact of that is labor is reduced, employment generation comes down, the economy overall suffers because taxes are not paid, so money isn't collected at the KRA or government revenue side, and taxes are not paid because we are not doing well as manufacturers and therefore can't pay taxes when we are not making any profits. So the only way we are able to sustain our business is to try and continue to innovate, continue to be creative, continue to be lobbying with the government to curtail such dumping from other suppliers overall in the international market. And that's unfortunately the only way that we are able to sustain the business.
As we wind up, perhaps tell us about what products perhaps are you dealing with, are you making at the moment, and going forward, are you looking at a broad vision of perhaps diversifying and really broadening your scope?
Yes, so the kind of products we currently deal with are brands like Fresh Fry cooking oil, Salit cooking oil, Fry Mate cooking fat, Pishipoa cooking fat, Sawa bathing soaps, Diva beauty soap, Diva glycerine, whitewash multi-purpose laundry bar, amongst many of the other bulk products that we do. So going into this year and next year, we're looking at diversifying into more B2B kind of products, business-to-business kind of products in palm wax, palm fat powders, more variations of the beauty soaps that we have with added value in them. So those are some of the projects that are in the pipeline that we intend to launch over the year, this year.
What of perhaps talking of markets, do you plan perhaps, are you foreseeing fresh markets that you want to explore right now? And how are you competing with industries from Nairobi perhaps, because perhaps you are based in the coast?
So when it comes to exports, obviously we are best placed with the port right next to us, so that gives us some competitive advantage. However, competing upcountry in Kenya, it doesn't really make too much of a difference because competitors will be taking crude from Mombasa, whereas we would be taking finished product from Mombasa. So cost of transport and logistics wouldn't really be too much of a factor whilst competing with players upcountry.
Is there an advantage perhaps your proximity to the Kenya Ports Authority, where actually most of the goods come in through? Is there any advantage for you?
It's actually a disadvantage rather than an advantage because of the cheap imports that we talked about earlier. So they would impact the coast market first before they impact the upcountry market. And so we would be more adversely affected as compared to competitors upcountry.
What's your broad vision for the next couple of years in Kenya, 2-3 years from now? What is the broad vision for you?
So Pwani works with a 5-year plan. So our Vision 2020, for example, we are very clear that we will be a preferred choice for 105 million consumers in the East African market. We'll be selling through close to approximately 88,000 retail outlets throughout the East African region, and we should be producing and selling 325,000 tons of product going into 2020.
All right.
So that's our overall plan.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Rajul.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That has been Mr. Rajul, the commercial director of Pwani Oil Product, of course, giving us an incisive interview on what their 2016 has been, the review of 2016, and looking ahead into 2017, what the year is likely to be. Back to your studio.
Thank you very much there, Francis Ontomwa. Just trying to have a conversation on what businesses are expecting in 2017.